Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Apologize for the late start this morning. Things going on at one time. Welcome to this Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, which is the Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 8, questions by King Pariksit. And this morning we're doing text 26. So without further ado, I'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana, Jamunatira Vandachari, Jamunatira Vandachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana, Jamunatira Vandachari, Jamunatira Vandachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivājakacārya Stotara Saraswati Mata's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivājakacārya Stotara Saraswati Mata's Divine Grace, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Brahmanandi, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Sri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhanta Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Jayati Tinamani. Narayana namaskritya narom chaivam narottamam devim saraswati vyasam tato jayam udhirayat nasya prayesu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamaśloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Text 26. Name savaḥ parāyanti brahmann anaśanād ami pibato cyuta-pīyūṣam tad vākya-abdhi-viniḥsṛtam name savaḥ parāyanti brahmann anaśanād ami pibato cyuta-pīyūṣam tad vākya-abdhi-viniḥsṛtam name savaḥ parāyanti brahmann anaśanād ami pibato cyuta-pīyūṣam tad vākya-abdhi-viniḥsṛtam. Hare Krishna. Please stand.
Name savaḥ parāyanti brahmann anaśanād pibato cyuta-pīyūṣam tad vākya-abdhi-viniḥsṛtam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, so we'll do word for word. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Name sva parāyanti brahmann anaśanād pibato cyuta-pīyūṣam vākya-abdhi-viniḥsṛtam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, we do word for word now. Na, never. Me, mine. Asava, life. Parāyanti, becomes exhausted. Brahman, O learned Brahman. Anaśanād ami, because of fasting. Pibato, because of my drinking. Achyuta, of the infallible. Pīyūṣam, nectar. Tat, your. Vākya-abdhi, ocean of speech. Viniḥsṛtam, flowing down from. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O learned brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The disciplic succession from Brahma, Narad, Vyas, and Shukadeva Goswami is particularly different from others. The disciplic successions from other sages are simply a waste of time, being devoid of achyuta katha, or the message of the infallible Lord. The mental speculators can present their theories very nicely by reason and arguments, but such reasons and arguments are not fallible, for they are defeated by better mental speculators. Maharaj Pariksit was not interested in the dry speculation of the flickering mind, but he was interested in the topics of the Lord because factually he felt that by hearing such a nectarian message from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami, he was not feeling any exhaustion, even though he was fasting because of his imminent death. One can indulge in hearing the mental speculators, but such hearing cannot endure for any length of time. One will be exhausted very soon from hearing such hackneyed ways of thinking. And no one in the world can be satisfied simply by hearing such useless speculations. The message of the Lord, especially from a personality like Shukadeva Goswami, can never be tiring, even though one may be exhausted from other causes. In some editions of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the text of the last line of this verse reads, Anyata kupitat vijat, which means that the king might be overwhelmed by the thought of his imminent death by snake bite. The snake was also twice born, and its anger is compared to the cursing brahmana boy who was without good intelligence. Maharaj Pariksit was not at all afraid of death, for he was fully encouraged by the message of the Lord. One who is fully absorbed in Achyuta Katha can never be afraid of anything in this world. Oma Gyanati Virandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chaksham Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantika. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyabhari Paschatya Shacharini. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurati Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. The English translation again. O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. Hare Krishna. This text here is being spoken by Maharaj Pariksit. And the O learned Brahmana, the Brahmana is being referred to here is none other than Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Pariksit is talking about how his body is holding up, and he's hearing the speeches from the Supreme Personality of Godhead's representative, Shukadeva Goswami. And he's saying, Maharaj Pariksit says, I'm not feeling any exhaustion at all. He had not eaten, he hadn't drunk anything, and a good 7 days he's listening. But right from the get-go, or at least well into the beginnings, second canto we are at now, he's already making a comment, which is a very, very encouraging comment to Shukadeva Goswami. But then it shouldn't surprise Shukadeva Goswami. I'm sure he wasn't. Because Achyuta Katha, the message of the infallible Lord, Achyuta means infallible. The message about him is very refreshing. Why? Because it goes right to the soul. And the soul is the one that gives consciousness to the whole body. And the consciousness pervades or covers the entire body. Therefore, messages of Achyuta Katha, the Lord, conversation about the Lord, pastimes about the Lord, teachings from the Lord, they all it's food for the soul. It keeps the soul very inspired. And since the soul is the one that gives consciousness, then the body follows suit. And that's exactly how Maharaj Pariksit was feeling. So we've also been told that the Lord is absolute. So absolute means Katha about Krishna is Krishna. Therefore, when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking Achyuta Katha, messages of the infallible Lord, Maharaj Pariksit was experiencing the presence of the Lord. And that is very fulfilling for the soul. And therefore, he was describing the effect of Achyuta Katha that way. The message of the infallible, or Krishna Katha, as we like to call it, also same thing. That the body was so much in tune to what was going on, the hearing of the messages. And he was listening very intently. We are actually asked to hear. So the Prabhupada says, chanting is the most important. So if anybody's not chanting, maybe you should make a resolution today to start chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But Srila Prabhupada also said hearing is the first thing, because hearing gives guidance. And if you hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you will feel the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the speeches, in the exchange, in the conversation. That's how it works. And that's why Srila Prabhupada has translated this way and also given purports. First, he talks about how important messages from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the line of saints and sages, those are far more important than the high IQ speculators that take something and then try to spin it, as they say in American language, to try to come up with some connections from their own imperfect minds. So the disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Sukadeva Goswami, they all said it exactly as Krishna said it to Brahma. Krishna introducing the Vedas to Brahma. So Brahma told his son Narada, and Narada told his disciple Vyasa, and Vyasa told his son Sukadeva Goswami. And they say one thing the Lord Chaitanya charges all of us to do. Say it like it is. Do not add any twists and turns to it. Say it like it is. The message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be said as is. Because since the Lord is absolute, when we talk about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that conversation is also Krishna. Therefore, we don't want to contaminate, quote unquote, contaminate Krishna through Krishna's katha. We cannot do that. We're not allowed to do that. We won't think to contaminate anything about Krishna. Well, then we shouldn't contaminate katha about him also, conversations about him. And so since these other people who Srila Prabhupada lumps them into the category of mental speculators, they try to present their theories, and they try to use logic, they try to use some other types of reasoning, they try to use some other arguments. Reminds me of one conversation that I heard. I was with a group of devotees, about 6 of us, that had been invited to dinner in the house of a devotee in 1998 in Alachua, Florida. Now, this person that invited us was actually a Srila Prabhupada disciple, very highly learned scholar. He started speaking, was quite popular, actually, written a number of books. So on the dinner table, he was speaking at his house. His wife was there, Ansil was there, myself. We were very new in Alachua at the time. We were only a few weeks there. I had an assignment. That's why we both went there. My little daughter was like 5 months old, something like that. First daughter, no second daughter. So anyway, he speaks, and then he begins to, this disciple of Srila Prabhupada begins to make some connections based on what science has been talking about. That's his background. And he made some conclusions that had our eyes wide open and going, what? That's not what I've heard from the Shastra. I'm saying that in my mind now. And then I looked at one of the other invitees, who's also Srila Prabhupada disciple. Mm. And she could read immediately what I was thinking. And quietly, because she was close to me, she said, "You'd be surprised at the some of the conclusions that people come to in this situation." The first one that I mentioned, you'd be surprised. Because, it was all over my face. It was obvious. Anyway, I asked some more questions. And what this particular devotee had done was taking what science had come up with and then kind of drawing conclusions from it, which were not what Srila Prabhupada said to do. And even in my view, I was only like, what, 6 years, 7 years into Krishna consciousness at that time. Mm. So it was difficult to take. But his conclusions came back to some of the statements that Srila Prabhupada had made. And that was a little more comforting to all of us. But at the beginning, it was very difficult. Mm. So if we take things from mental speculators and try to say they said this, they said that, then one, you're contaminating the Krishna Katha. But this Krishna Katha that's being spoken by Shukadeva Goswami came from Krishna to Brahma to Narada to Vyasa. And they say it like it is without diluting any part of it or polluting any part of it. Worse. So Maharaj Pariksit was only interested in Krishna Katha as had been said by Krishna to Brahma, and now being related to him by Shukadeva Goswami. And he was not interested in the dry speculation of the minds of these people who Srila Prabhupada describes as flickering. And in fact, that's exactly what happens. And personally, I've stopped listening to these people who even come up with all kinds of, because even in science, there's so much assumptions being made. Why? Because the instruments are so limited in what they can do. And there's a whole universe. How much of the universe can the instruments sitting here on this one small planet called the Earth by a few scientists, how much can they measure? So how can they come to the conclusion that's correct? For example, it has been said, and I heard this before I even heard from Srila Prabhupada, that the diameter of this particular universe is 4 billion miles. 4 billion miles. I heard it even from a Muslim leader, 4 billion miles. Then I came to Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada mentioned the same thing. The diameter of the universe, Srila Prabhupada says 4 billion miles up and down. Yet if you go to science, they have used a huge scientific notation number that numbers, the number is in the quadrillions and even past it. Yet the number, as we know, from what Krishna has put out, and Lord Vishnu has described, 4 billion miles, this particular planet. We know Lord Brahma's age, his lifetime, 311 trillion miles, and 311 trillion years, and then 40 billion also. So we know specific numbers, the type of non-human bodies, the 8 million non-human bodies go over 900,000. See, Prabhupada gave another lecture, 900,000 aquatics. Then he said, where in science would you find this particular number so specific about what's in this material world? So there's no guessing. The people who are authoritative, the great saints and sages, they present things as they are because it came from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations are the creating Vishnus for this material world. So they would know. If anybody would know, they would know. They are the authority. So we shouldn't, see, Papa says, you hear about mental speculators, you'll be exhausted. These commonplace type arguments, they are stale. And you probably just say things to me, they hackneyed, which means they're stale. So You get tired from hearing that. So we have to stay. The message here is you got to stay with just the kata, the Krishna kata, from Krishna himself through the disciplic succession, authorized disciplic succession. And every one of them is bona fide. So dry speculation has no substance. They are all turn off. For many seasoned devotees, they don't like to hear that at all. So stay with just what Krishna has told and come down from our line. This line that Brahma, then to his son Narada, then to Vyas, then to Shukadeva Goswami, it's the same line that Srila Prabhupada also comes from. It's the same line. So we should hear as it is. And speaking about hearing, the hearing purifies us. It purifies us. I'm talking about the soul now. And when the soul hears this wonderful food, Krishna Katha, Achyuta Katha, then the intelligence also falls in line, and then the mind can be purified steadily. And in the Narada Bhakti Sutra, by Narada Muni, Bhakti, devotion, Sutra are verses, so this is like conclusions. And the Sutra number 11, Loka Vedeshu Tat Anukacharanam, Tat Virodhi Sinta, Virodhi Sudan Sinata. The translation is, indifference towards what stands in the way of devotional service means to accept only those activities of social custom and Vedic injunction that are favorable to devotional service. Very important statement being made by Narada Muni here. We all have come from different designations, different nationalities, sometimes different religions before even coming to this Sanatana Dharma or Krishna consciousness, eternal religion. And from there, social customs are there. And of course, there's also Vedic injunctions. And what's being said by Narada here is not that the social customs are necessarily something to stick to only, but the major thing that we need to do is the part of the customs that's favorable to devotional service, we should continue with those. That's what he's saying. So to be indifferent mentally towards what stands in the way of devotional service, to be indifferent to that means those social customs that are favorable to devotional service, we should keep practicing. And those social customs that are unfavorable to devotional service, to the teachings that are connected with devotional service, we should reject those. Therefore, we clean up our act and become real devotees of the Lord and not let Maya pull us into different social customs just because they are there. So for devotees, yes, we have social customs. Yes, we were born in certain places and all of that. That's important because it connects to the body. I mean, it's necessary, not important. Important is Krishna consciousness stuff. Material stuff is just necessary because we have this material bodies. And when we leave the material body, then it's not necessary anymore. But we need to just stay with those customs that are supportive of devotional service. Keep doing that. So, Srila Prabhupada says in one section of the purport for this Narada Bhakti Sutta, Sutta number 11, that until a person is completely free of material contamination, he might want to worship God in the hope of, please, Lord, give me my daily bread, and fulfilling material desires. But even if a person has material desires, this is the mercy of the Lord coming through here. If he scrupulously, in a determined way, worships the Supreme Lord, then the Supreme Lord will purify him or her of all such desires. Material desires. Case in point, Kubja. When the Lord, Krishna and Balaram, when they went to Mathura, The main aim was to free Mathura of the atrocities by Kamsa, by getting rid of Kamsa. But before that, they went into Mathura town. And they met all kinds of people. The pastimes continued there. And so we won't get into great detail about it, but I mentioned Kubja. So this particular woman was a hunchback woman. And so she couldn't stand up straight. But he had, I forgot, if I remember, I'll just say it. It's right on my tongue, but it's coming. Anyway, I'll continue. He met Krishna Balaram. And sandalwood paste is what I'm trying to think about. Yeah, so she had sandalwood paste meant for Kamsa, the king. But she gave it to Krishna Balaram when they requested it. She had no hesitation to let them have. And Krishna was very pleased with her doing that. And therefore, Krishna worked, we would call it magic, but to him it's nothing. Krishna straightened up the back of this hunchback, and she became nice, straight, beautiful, and she was so thrilled. But she also became physically attracted to Krishna and wanted to have a relationship with him, a conjugal type relationship with him. But he was thinking materially, sexually, not like the way the gopis think of relating to Krishna. She was thinking materially, like that. She took Krishna and Balaram, went to the home, and he began to think, began to really express, what she was feeling regarding Krishna, because Krishna is very, very attractive, and so is Balaram. But later, when Krishna promised that he would come back to see her, she got her mind changed from lusty desires to loving desires. He was transformed. Therefore, same way, some people who go to the Lord for material things, but if they take this particular process especially seriously, then Krishna purifies from within. Guru also gives the proper instructions. And by following that, the person becomes purified. So a person with initially material desires can get purified. This is how powerful Krishna consciousness or Chitta-kata is. So the Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Some people might want to worship demigods again because they want material things. If you do that, you cannot become a pure devotee ever. That won't happen. But the Lord is in the heart of a devotee, a person who wants to, at least is worshiping demigods, even that, in the heart of everyone, every living entity. So the Lord will not stop that. Whatever we want, he supervises, he also permits. But he said in the Bhagavad Gita that such demigod worshippers, they are of small intelligence. The demigods are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if you worship the Lord, then all of them, they'll be satisfied. So, as long as anyone is controlled by the modes of material nature, and that's practically all of us, we're not pure, we're just working through that, then one will be prone to worshiping entities like the demigods, some even worse, worshiping all kinds of disembodied entities. The demons do that, and they want power from them. They are very, very lost in that sense. But one who curbs this tendency and worships Krishna exclusively, then they can rise above these modes and attain literally pure devotional service. Sutra number 12 says this. I'll go straight to the translation. One must continue to follow scriptural injunctions even after one is fixed up in determined certainty that devotional service is the only means for reaching the perfection of life. one must continue to follow scriptural injunctions, what to do, what not to do, even after we become totally convinced that devotional service is the only means for reaching the perfection of life. Srila Prabhupada explains the symptoms of full surrender. When one becomes totally convinced, the assumption here, or it follows from this, that devotion service is the only means. When one becomes convinced, and of course they are steady in it, then the modes of nature don't affect them as much. And the goodness, passion, and ignorance, after a while, it gets purified to higher goodness, uncontaminated goodness. So, to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when one becomes convinced, they surrender. And here are symptoms of a person who is surrendered. One, they perform acts only favorable to devotion service. Those ones, only the acts favorable to devotion service activities. And number two, they give up everything unfavorable for discharging devotion service. The person who is fully surrendered also believes that Krishna will protect him or her in all circumstances. And not only that, they are convinced that nobody is a better protector than Krishna himself. And this should be obvious because he's the supreme controller. If anyone can do anything, the ultimate can only be done by Krishna. To the ultimate, that is always Krishna. Therefore, when it comes to protection, Krishna would be the greatest protector. And he does the protection according to his own way. When Prahlad Maharaj was in trouble, of course, he didn't see himself in trouble, but looking at it materially, his father Hiranyakashipu was about to kill him in different ways. But he wasn't bothered. Just like Ambarish Maharaj wasn't bothered. When Durvasa Muni somehow with his powers got this big demon to manifest right in front of him, because Durvasa Muni was angry at Ambarish Maharaj and wanted to kill him. Ambarish Maharaj was not disturbed either. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they teach us that at all times we should be very, very confident that the Lord will give us the requisite protection. We should always think that the Lord is great and that one is always protected by him. So number 4, one should be convinced that the Lord is our maintainer and there's no need to take shelter of any demigod just for maintenance, which is what we were talking about earlier. We should have the conviction that Krishna is one's maintainer and one should not take shelter of any demigod for maintenance. And Krishna's maintenance, even for some of us that are fairly, down there in terms of the level of devotion and, by only mercy of Guru we're going on, even some of us have realized that we may not have much finances, but whenever something is needed to be done, somehow the money gets provided. Krishna's bank is an invisible bank, but he sees what's there. It never goes dry. If you just really, really, really give your heart to Krishna, material things won't be a problem. They really won't be a problem. When it's really needed, it comes down to it, Krishna always makes the arrangement. Sometimes you might be shocked at some bills that come out of nowhere and it just throws us off. But then it's only temporary. Next thing you know, things have been cleared. Just give it a few weeks and you're going on. So Krishna actually does that so that we would have our dependence very high on him. Because we have the tendency to say, since we come here wanting to be our own controllers, we have a tendency to say, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that, and we'll be fine. And if things haven't worked out well, then we become all tensed up and anxious. We get into anxiety. But when we understand that Krishna is the one that maintains us, then even when initially things seem to be a little bit difficult, It's going to be, you just, depend on Krishna. Appeal to Krishna. Keep chanting steadily. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. Because you should have the confidence that Krishna is our maintainer. And whatever it is, he will solve it in his own way, not our way. As soon as you get to that point of being convinced that Krishna will solve all problems, and whatever it is that becomes a challenge, or now it's called reversal, there are lessons for us to learn in it. And even that is temporary. It comes and it will go. So then we can remain steady. So one should, the last point, fifth one. One should always remember that one's activities and desires are not independent. We should feel completely dependent on Krishna. And if we think that way, then we will act as Krishna desires. And the last point, we should think ourselves totally dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Totally dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Like a child. The child is poor. The parents are the ones that support the child. The child actually is poor. The child doesn't see himself or herself as poor. He knows that when he needs something, he goes to the parents, it will be provided. That's the child's consciousness. But in the matter of fact is, what do they have? Nothing. They don't even have a bank account. So actually, they are the poorest. But because the parents are there, they don't feel poor. That should be our consciousness. We should think ourselves totally dependent on the mercy of Krishna. So it's like we don't have anything. We are dependent on the mercy of Krishna. And whatever is here that we use or in our possession, that is by the mercy of the Lord. That should be our thinking. So that's not the Bhakti Sutra. So many points are there. It's very, very interesting, but there's only so much time. So we did only 2 of those verses today, 11 and 12. So Krishna Katha is very, 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 very favorable for our growth in Krishna consciousness. And Maharaj Pariksit is proving it by saying, I don't even feel any kind of disturbances from the body. Hearing you, Shukadeva Goswami, O learned brahmana, speak about Achyuta Katha. So now with a few minutes left, and those of you that have been coming, they know that I'm going through one series called the Avadut Brahmana and the 24 Gurus. So we'll say one more thing about that, and then we conclude. So this is in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, in chapter 9. The whole Avadut Brahmana thing is in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, text 7. Canto 11, chapters 7, 8, and 9. So in chapter 9, the Avadut Brahman is saying, the mind can be controlled when it's fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is a statement Srila Prabhupada has said so many times. This is how to steady the mind. The mind is controlled when it's fixed on Krishna, and then having achieved that stable situation, then the mind becomes free from the polluted desires, the anatas, the desires to execute material activities. So then the more the goodness will be increased and increased, we'll give up passion, give up ignorance, and then the more the goodness will increase, gradually one will transcend even the material mode of goodness to now come to the level of pure goodness. Just by fixing the mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Same thing as saying, always think of the Lord and never forget the Lord. So, when the mind is freed that way, then that fire of material existence is extinguished. The fire of material existence, the connection, the way in which we get pulled into material things, that gets extinguished. Less and less and less interest in it. So when the consciousness is completely fixed on the absolute truth, Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the other sign is One no longer sees duality, internal and external reality. No longer sees it that way. Because even if they look like this is internal or that's external, it's all from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the uniting factor, then everything that is seen, even if it's external, even if it's a table. All right, so let's take a table. Table is made of wood. Wood is from what? The tree. Where is the tree? Tree is part of nature. Who made nature? Lord Vishnu, an incarnation of a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like that. And just from the table, you can remember Krishna. So then everything is linked to Krishna. Mm-hmm. And we just keep serving. That's all. So a saintly person, this is text 14, should remain alone and constantly travel without any fixed residence, because this refers to our sannyasis, which is exactly what they do. They shouldn't speak more than required. That is for all of us, whether we're sannyasis or not. So this point here, when we said the avadhut Brahman had 24 gurus, so what we've talked about is realized or was realized by the avadhut Brahman by looking at the example of the arrow maker. The arrow maker was very absorbed in making an arrow and making that arrow straight. So much was he concentrating on that task of making the best arrow possible that he didn't even see that there was a whole troop of people, the king's entourage and the king himself. They were passing. So the king is a palanquin, and there was so much, activity going on. Those who were singing, those who were dancing, all of that. The arrow maker did not even look up. He did not feel the presence of the king when the king was passing right next to him. He didn't look up because he was that pinpointed, that absorbed in making a straight arrow. That should be our attitude towards Krishna consciousness. Everything that is distracting us material, we pray to get to the point like the arrow maker. Stay with the process of devotion and not get pulled to other things that are irrelevant. So, one, Shukadeva Goswami is saying Krishna Katha has great, great, great effect on the whole mind and the body, and is food for the soul also. That's why he didn't get tired. And that's why when we ourselves are even well rested, we can chant for hours the Hare Krishna mantra and not get tired, because it goes right to the soul. It definitely invigorates the soul spiritually. And then, since the soul is, the symptoms of it is consciousness, which pervades the whole body, then the body follows suit and the body doesn't get tired. So Krishna consciousness, Achyuta Katha, is beneficial for us. It is very, very invigorating. And Maharaj Pariksit is talking about it fairly early in the conversation, because we only have the second canto. He's already telling Shukadeva Goswami how he's feeling. He's fasting and he's not feeling tired at all. This is how strong and how much effective Krishna consciousness kata is. And therefore, we should stay with it. Srila Prabhupada has given us so much. 84 books he wrote in the 7 years. 84 books that he wrote in the 12 years that he was here. So 7 books a year. A lot of books. That's a record in itself. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the time, Buddhists, if you want to ask questions, share some realizations, connect some dots from what you know in Krishna consciousness, you can do that. Hare Krishna. So any questions or comments? All right, I'm not hearing from anyone yet, so I will then, with your permission, end the class this morning. This is in the weekend now, so have a wonderful Krishna conscious weekend. Vanchakalpataru Vishakripasuniveva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Jai.